Welcome to the world of big data, where massive volumes of information transform into actionable insights, unlocking the potential informations, optimizations, and parallel decision making. So let's explore the world of big data together. So in this, we are going to study about a few topics, which starts from a quick overview of the big data, the characteristics of the big data, its types. Furthermore, we are going to check about the importance of big data. Then proceeding with the challenges which are associated with handling big data. And lastly, we are going to see through some real world applications. Now proceeding with the big data, the foremost important question that arises is what is big data? So let's check what is big data. So here we have a simple definition which states big data refers to the vast volume of structured and unstructured data that is generated at high velocity and requires innovative technologies and methods for storage, processing and analysis. Okay, so that simply means that big data can be in any format, which can be structured like Excel files or some CSV files, or it can be unstructured like all the messages we get, the video files, the media files. All these files, all these formats of data, they all refers to the big data. Or we can also state it as big data refers to the data that is so large, fast, or complex that it is impossible or difficult to process using traditional methods. So any data that cannot be handled using traditional methods, that can also be considered as big data. Now let's check what are the characteristics of big data. Here are 5 main characteristics of big data that start from volume, which states a huge amount of data. The second one here we have is variety. Variety means the different formats of data from the various sources, like we have mails, we have media files, we have like videographies and all these. These all are different varieties of data. Veracity here, inconsistencies in the uncertainty in the data. Then we have velocity, that is high speed of accumulation of data. Nowadays data is being generated in a very high speed, so we are going to analyze about the high speed of the data. And lastly we have value, which means extract useful data. Now first we are going to study here is the volume. Volume refers to the quantity of data to be stored. So big data involves a large amount of information, exceeding the capacity of traditional databases, as we have already discussed. So for example, here is an example which states Walmart deals with a big data. Walmart is one of the companies which actually deals with a big data. What does that mean? That means they handle more than 1 million of customer transaction every hour. So that means what actually volume refers to is nowadays every second every human being is generating a large amount of data. So in general, volume refers to the quantity of data that is stored, that needs to be processed, or from which we need the informations to be gathered. Next we here have is velocity. So now what does velocity means? Now in data, velocity refers to the speed at which data is entered into a system and must be processed. Now what does that mean? That simply means is, for example, you are using phones right now, or you are watching this systems or watching this video right now. What you are doing is you are generating a data for everyone. Now what is that data? It can be googling right now, anyone is googling right now, that can have certainty of clicks or browsing histories, anyone visiting doctors, that can generating history. That means every second we are generating a good amount of data. So here the speed at which data is generated is simply known as velocity. So big data is generated rapidly in real time or near real time, we simply says that the demanding quick processing and analysis. So if the data is generated in such a good speed, so we actually need a good speed, that is a quick processing time. For example, we can simply say here Amazon captures every click of mouse. while the shoppers are browsing on its websites. So just like I said, there is actually data being generated every second. Now next we can see variety. Now what does variety means? So variety here refers to as the complexities of data formats. Now what does complexity here means? So in simplicity, when we talk about variety or compact complexities in data, I am stating here is different forms of data. So variety refers to the different forms of data. Now what are the different forms? Like in the starting, what we have discussed is if I am like, for example, we are using social media sites or anyhow something, every minute, every seconds, maybe someone is posting something. Now what a person is posting, it can be some form of text, or probably it can be some form of video, audio, or whatever. So variety refers to the different forms of data. Everything that is being generated, that is being created, is a data. So that means कि variety simply refers to the different forms of data. For example, here we have the telecommunication company records data on the call. Its call center. That data can be structured. Structured data for the call center companies may be the customer ID, times stamps, call, service types, and whatever. And it can also have unstructured data types. What are the unstructured data types? It can be recording of the calls, notes that the call center operates during the call, or any problem history and something. So these are simply the variety of the data. Now proceeding next, we have veracity. Now what does it means to say veracity of data? Veracity refers to truthworthiness in data. Actually, right now there are so much amount of data, volume, veracity, variety, velocity, everything which we have. There were 3 V's, then we have came to 4 and 5. What was actually veracity is the trustworthiness. Trustworthiness, whenever we came across the topic, that simply analyze that if the data, whatever the data says, is actually meant or not. Like every hour in the social media platform, someone posts any news, any any data, any formats, anything. Do you know or do you believe that blindly, or you just Google it or you check it again? So simply with a large amount of data, there comes the condition where we need to check if the data is trustworthy. There comes the veracity. Veracity is that more data is collected and analyzed automatically. Okay, so there are so much data that is being collected, analyzed, but not captured in its entirely due to the high volume and velocity. The higher the uncertainty about the data, accuracy of data. So that is large amount of data, and it is not possible to capture each and every aspect, each and everything, or if you know actually the data is trustworthy. Okay, so veracity simple means trustworthiness of data. For example, we have, it is particularly challenging to verify the trustworthiness of post on social media platform. Okay, as we do not know the posters backgrounds and their intentions. Next we are moving forward to value. Now what does value means? Value refers to the benefit that big data can provide, and it relates directly to what organization can do with that collected data. Now what this means? As I said, data is everything or every information that is being generated by you, collected by you, or anything. So the value of that data means how meaningful that data is. For me, not every data will have value. Okay, but for someone that data might have some value. For a customer, for a shopkeeper, for example, he might be interested in knowing the data related to their customer, but he might not be interested to know what the different countries population might be, or the different countries living in what conditions. He might not be interested. He might be interested more in the people living nearby him, or the people who actually can shop from him. So simply what the value is, for a big MNC company or some companies, he might be interested in more some other data that is different from the different perspective. So it is valuable and reliable data that we store, process, or analyze, like the data stored by a company for analysis of customer satisfaction. Okay, so any data that can be used for generating some sort of value from it. Next, we are going to study about the types of big data. So here we have three types. One is structured data, then we have unstructured data, then we have semi-structured data. Now let's see what are these data types. First, starting with structured data. So what is structured data? Structured data can be defined as the data that reside in a fixed field within a record. Now what does that fixed field means? Fixed field simply means a data which is bind in a certain schema. It follows a certain schema. It is of similar type. It can have all the similar properties. For example, if I am connecting all the emails, that must be all emails. It must be all in the text formats. That can be my structured data. But if I am collecting data in the form of media, photos, audios, that cannot be structured. Because we cannot align them, cannot assign them in a fixed field or a fixed record. So a certain schema binds it. We can say, so all the data has the same set of properties. Structured data is also known as relational data, as we can say. So it is split into multiple tables to enhance the integrity of the data by creating a single record to depict an entity. Relationships are enforced by applications of table constraints. Now we can check the features of structured data. So what are some features? So moving with the first one here, which says can be displayed in rows, columns, and relational database. So there are many relational databases. So structured data formats can always be displayed in these formats or can be used in some other formats also. For example, we can use number, dates, strings. These all are structured. Estimated 20% of enterprise data requires less storage as compared to other forms of data and easier to manage and protect the legacy solution. Okay, so these are some quite features of the big data, structured big data. Now some examples of what are these structured data looks like. So as I stated before, we have dates and times, cell phone numbers, social security numbers, banking transaction informations, customer names, product prices, serial numbers. These all are some examples of structured data. Now moving forward to what are unstructured data. So now what is unstructured data? Unstructured data is the kind of data that doesn't adhere to any definite schemas or set of rules. Oh, it states by itself that I do not follow any rule. So what does that mean? For example, structured data said that it will follow some certain rules or it will be fixed in certain schema. So that means we can have a planning, we can arrange them in certain rows, columns, or relational tables or certain formats. But unlike structured data, unstructured data cannot be arranged. Its arrangement is unplanned and haphazard. For example, photos, videos, text, documents, log files, these are all generally considered unstructured because you cannot categorize all of these in certain formats or certain structures. So additional, we can also say that unstructured data is known as dark data because it cannot be analyzed without a proper software tool. So unlike structured data, it is not very easy to process and to store and somewhat analyze any information out of them unless you have a proper software tools. Now what are some features of unstructured data? So features start with first here. It cannot be displayed in rows, columns, and relational databases. Few examples are images, audios, videos, word processing files, emails, and spreadsheets. Estimated 80% of enterprise data requires more storage and more difficult to manage and protect with legacy solutions, unlike the structured one. That is very easy to manage. Some examples here are business documents, emails, social media, customer feedbacks, web pages, open-ended surveys, and image audios. You can actually browse more. Now, what is semi-structured data? So, semi-structured data is not bound to any rigid schema of data storage or handling. So, like structured, it is also not bounded. It is same as unstructured, but this data is not in relational format and is not neatly organized into rows. This can also not be organized in unstructured formats like uh, other ones, but there is some key value pairs that help in discerning the different entities from each other. So, since semi-structured data does not need a structured query language, it is commonly called NoSQL data. So, it is also known as NoSQL data. Semi-structured data content is often used to store metadata about a business program, but it can also include files containing machine instructions or computer programs. Next, we have some examples of semi-structured data, which are some sensors data, emails, configuration files, machine logs, blockchains, social media posts, scientific data, and HTML web pages. Now, moving forward to importance of big data. So, what are the importance of big data? The first state states that big data can improve business operations, offer more personalized service to customers, improve marketing campaigns, and in general contribute to more efficient decision making. So, when a business knows how to use its data, it gains a competitive advantage over those that don't, which makes it easier to grow and increase market. And third one says that regardless of its sector, any business can use big data to improve its operations and better teach its audience. So, in general, what does that importance means is if we have data in whatever sector I am working, you are working, or you are studying, if you have big data related to that sector, that means you have a good amount of data to analyze, which means you can have a very good decision or graphical analytics or business analytics out of that data. So it is a very great advantage of big data which helps us in analysis and furthermore activities which are related to the big data. Here are some quick ones which says improved analysis. AI-enabled predictions identify problems, patterns more efficient and analyzes customer. As we have stated before. Challenges in handling big data. So let's look through the challenges which are associated with handling the big data. So here are some quick insights which says that unmanageable volume of big data. So it is quite hard to manage as it is considering a high volume of data. Poor quality of data that can lead to the bad results. So certainly we know that if the data is very large, so there must be some columns, some rows which might be missing or null or must be inappropriate. So due to these all wrong things or poor quality, it also leads to bad results. Next we have multiple data formats. So actually what happens here is the big data challenges what is one most is the uh, big data is certainly in many formats which we have discussed like structured, unstructured, semi-structured. So it is quite fine with handling the structured data. But whenever the concept of big data arises, we are focusing on unstructured and semi-structured also. Whenever we have these type of data, it is quite challenging to manage the data formats and to do any analysis and further improvising on whatever the thing we are going to do. Next, we have multiple sources and integration hurdles. So big data is not generated from a single source or a single platform. Actually, what happens is that there are many sources, many platforms throughout the world, throughout the country. Data is being generated in the multiple sources, multiple places, and further, they are being integrated at a place. So which plays a very good role, and also it creates a good hurdle. Now next we have high cost of project data projects and infrastructures. Then scarce big data talent in house and in market. So not much peoples or not much talents we have yet about the big data. Slow time to insight. Slow time to insight simply means that data is very large. So it will take a good amount of time for any insights or any derivations of information. No clear understanding of how to get and use the insight. So it is one of the good challenges, as we cannot actually clearly state what about the insights, what about the informations which are getting. Complex security and compliance. The security and everything is not very easy to maintain. No one size fits all the solution for all the data needs. So like structured, there must be some common ground or some common solutions for all the data which we can use. But for big data, there is no one size fits which we can use. Now next we have applications of big data in real life. Let's check what are the applications. So here are 8 applications which are related to big data. Let's check out. The first one here is bank and securities. So in banking sector, which we simply know as a huge amount of data being generated, being stored in a daily for like transaction histories, new accounts being generated, any security funds. So all these informations are simply the big data that is being generated, collected, stored in everyday life. The second was in insurance. We do insurance. The many people have insurance and all the insurance sectors which produce a good amount of data. Then the transportation sector. We have different types of transportations, from the aerial transportation to land transports and different types. So all these transports have informations about their flights, attendants, pilots and everything whatever being happening all around. Education sector, as we all know, education sector has good amount of big data as the new information is being collected, generated on new technologies. Media and entertainments are generating a good amount of data, and they're utilizing them. Healthcare sectors need the data for the analysis also. For example, a patient history can be used for any further information regarding his past. So basically, what we can say is big data is mostly everywhere wherever we are finding any collecting information. Even when we are sitting, we are doing something, we must be generating some sort of information. So let's take a simple example. If we are just sitting and doing nothing, but still if we are using our phones, we might be scrolling through Instagram or searching some courses or googling something. For every bit we are generating some big data. Okay. For energies, utilities, manufacturing, every sector of this world, every sector in our daily life is generating some amount of data. That is big data because it is now in the formats of structured, unstructured and different formats. Next we have a quick summary. So in this we have get to know a quick good things regarding the big data. Let's check once what we have studied through all the time. The first one which we have studied about is the big data. So from all the understanding which we are here till now, we can simply summarize it as big data is the data that is so large, fast and complex that it is difficult or impossible to process using traditional methods. Any data which we are using right now is the big data because some sort of these informations cannot be used in traditional method. And there might be some small data, and there is no term like small data, there is simply term like data. Now next one we have characteristics of big data. So here we have studied about volume, value, variety, veracity and value. Okay. So here we have value written twice. It cannot be. It is volume, variety, veracity, value and velocity. Okay. So velocity here simply means the speed at which data is generating. Volume means the amount of data being generated. Variety is the different formats in which data is being generated, as we have already studied. Veracity means the trustworthiness of data. When we are studying about the veracity, we simply know that nowadays data is being generated enormously and we cannot trust every data. You remember when we check any new quick news or new some information or DIY videos, we first check with the Google. Can we use this sort of things? Is it correct? Why we do check? Because we do not trust every information we get. So simply with a huge amount of data being generated every day, we cannot have the trustworthiness in each of the data. Next we have value. What does that value means? So here value means what is the most important information or what is the helpful insight that our data can give us. That is the value of my data. And as we have already discussed, no, not every data is valuable for everyone, but every data might be valuable for someone. Some sort of data might be valuable for someone, but not for other, and that is okay. Now, next one we have types of big data, in which we have studied about structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. In which structured data is the type of data that follows fixed schema or can be arranged in some row columns, that is some kind of Excel sheets or forward or some relational tables. Unstructured data is somewhat like it does not simply follow any fixed rule. It will not follow any schema. It can be any media, photo, video, or anything. Then we have semi-structured data. Semi-structured data simply states I will not also follow the same schema thing, but semi-structured data do not follow the schema, but it does have key value pair which help in the insights. Then we have studied about the importance of big data. There we came across how the big data is actually important for us and how it is serving our purposes in helping our day-to-day analysis, in knowing and understanding the things that is happening. Then we have studied about challenges in handling data. Big data, as we have known that big data is a very good term, it is helping us, it is important. But is there some challenge which we are facing in handling? So we have discussed the huge amount of volume, the velocity, the speed at which the data is being generated. We need to process and analyze the data at the same time. Now, also we have studied lastly the real world applications of big data. So in the real world applications of big data, we have understood how in our day-to-day life, how in our real world, we are using big data in every field. So now for this one, this big data thing, we have already covered these points. So thank you all. This is Swati here.